Hello and welcome to my creative space. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Welcome to another DIY video. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe and join this creative squad. For today's video, I have 5 Kirkland inspired dupes. I'm so excited to share how I created these, so let's get started. For dupe number 1, I am going to be using this tin bucket I found at a thrift store, but you could use the Dollar Tree buckets that they sell. Now I'm going to take my white and black paint and I'm going to mix it with some baking soda to give it a little bit of texture. I am just going to keep adding until I get the color I want, and once I have it ready to go, it's time to paint my bucket, and I am going to give a good layer of paint to make sure that it's covering all the gold on this bucket. And then I am going to paint a little bit of the inside just to make sure that none of that is going to be showing through once I add the greenery and all that. For the handles of my bucket, I'm going to take 2 pieces of rope, and I'm going to be using this metal wall sticker, or I guess it's not metal, but it looks like metal. I'm going to cut 2 little strips of it, and that is going to be what is going to hold the bottom of this to make it look like it's actually metal. And I don't know what those things are called, but I'm sorry. So I'm going to just wrap it, and then I am going to add some hot glue to make sure it's secure, and then I will do the exact same thing on the other one. Now I am going to take 2 push pins and adding them to the ends of this rope, and these are from the Dollar Tree, by the way, and this is what it's looking like. I love it. Now once my tin bucket was dried, I took some black paint and I distressed it with this just to give it a little more dimension. I think it made all the difference. But once that was done and dried, I took some silver paint that I had as well. It's acrylic paint, and then I distressed it with that, and I think this looks amazing. I was really shocked of how good this was looking, but let me know what you think. And now it's time to start putting everything together. Look at how cool this tin bucket looks like. I love it. Okay, now I'm going to take my handles and I am going to be gluing those down into place. I just figure exactly where I wanted them, and then I just started gluing them in place. Here is what it's looking like. Now I am going to start adding my fluorofoam, and I'm sorry about this fluorofoam. I just keep reusing it and it has too many holes already. Okay, now I'm going to take some floral moss and I am going to be adding it just to fill in and cover up those fluorofoams. And then I'm just gonna have fun and add this greenery. I'm sorry, this is from Dollar Tree. There's several different picks, I guess, that I took apart and I just have in my stash. And those right there, those are from Walmart. They are the dollar picks, and I'm just gonna start adding them. I also had this lavender, and I just cut them individually and I started adding them to give this bucket the look that we are going for. And I just fill it in with all the greenery that I had, and I loved it. I love it so much. And now here is the end result. I love how this tin bucket turned out. I think I nailed it. I think it almost looks the same. Let me know what you think. For dupe number 2, here are some of the items I'm going to use. These are Dollar Tree signs. As you can see, this welcome sign is from the Dollar Tree, but I only had one and I needed for another project later on this video. So I took the scrap of wood that I already had on hand. I had a few pieces of scraps of wood. And here are some stickers that I like to use as stencils, and we'll need some paint. Now I'm going to start with a longer piece of wood that's going to be the back of my sign. And I am going to take the skinnier scrap of wood that I had and mark it to the size I needed. I took it outside and used my hawk saw to cut that down. Now it's time to start putting this together. Now you could buy a 3rd long sign from the Dollar Tree and use that for the top and bottom, but I only found 2, so that's why I had to do what I could with what I had. Okay, now that is I'm just going to start gluing my pieces together. Once they are done, I'm gonna take my glue gun and kind of fill in the gap that is in between the sides, and then with my finger I am going to kind of like clean it up, I guess. Once that is done, I had these other 2 scraps of wood that I end up switching later because the other ones were going to be too thick. As you can see, they're skinnier and they're going to work better for what I'm going for. Now I'm just going to take my chalk paint, and I don't remember the color, so I'll leave it in the description box, but I'm going to use that to paint this whole sign in those little 2 pieces of wood. Once everything is dried, I am going to start gluing this together. So I am going to take my skinnier pieces and I'm going to glue one at the top and one at the bottom. And what I end up figuring out would work better was just to add it to the side and then add the wooden pieces into place. Now that that is done, it's time to take my stickers that I use as stencils. Now, you can use the stickers instead of painting this, which I feel like I should have done that. I don't know. I just like the way it turned out. I felt like the stickers were going to be too shiny, and that's why I decided to just paint them. But anyway, so once I placed them where I need them to go, I took my Waverly chalk paint, black chalk paint, and then I just started painting my letters, and I tried to do the best as I could. But you'll see in a second what happens. Okay, so I carefully started removing the stickers, and even though I did that, I realized that these letters were not perfect. I guess the stickers didn't stick all the way down, so some of the paint kind of like bleed out, but that was okay because I just went in there with a brush and tried to fix the edges, and I was happy with that. Okay, this sign has this really cool designs on them, and there was no way your girl was going to be able to draw that by hand because I am not that talented, honestly. And so I used my best friend's Cricut machine that she let me borrow, and I created these instead. And now I'm just marking exactly where I want them to go, and all I have to do is just stick them, rub them, and move on. Alrighty, moving on. Now I'm going to take my ruler and create some dots on this sign. This sign does have some black dots on it, and I use my ruler to mark exactly where I want each dot to go and make sure that it's going to be even on both sides. Then I took this wooden dowel and my black chalk paint, and I started creating these dots, and this is what is looking so far. I love it. I love how this is looking. Now it's time to distress this, and I took my Waverly antique wax and I started distressing it with it. I didn't distress the inside. To me, it didn't seem like it was distressed on the inside. So I just did the outside, and yeah, I just took this Dollar Tree brush and started distressing it, having fun. And while this rolls, I'm sure you noticed, you might have seen an ad when you started this video. I finally reached my YouTube hours, and I can't believe it. I'm so excited and so grateful to you. Thank you so much for helping me reach this goal. Now let's see what else we can do. And now it's time to add the last detail. So for the hanger, I used this one from one of those Dollar Tree frames that I removed and I already had on hand. And I just kind of nailed it down. And once I had that one there, I took this other little label that I already had from one of those photo boxes, and I just removed it and added it to this sign, and that completes the look. Here is the end result. I am in love of how this sign turned out. I think I nailed it as well. Let me know what you think. For dupe number 3, here are some of the items I'm going to be using. All of these are from Dollar Tree. I'm going to start with the clutch. I think that's how you say it. If not, I'm sorry. And I'm going to remove the tag. Now, I'm going to use the exact same paint I use for my dupe number 1 for my tin bucket. And I try to add some gold because I thought it was going to pop out, but it didn't, so we'll add that later. Now I'm gonna paint both all the bottom, the little bell that also from the Dollar Tree. I got it during Christmas and I had it in my stash. And I'm also going to be painting that little bead that is from those colorful wooden beads that the Dollar Tree sells. Now I had this acrylic shimmery gold paint, and I added that because in the picture it seemed like it was made out of metal, and I feel like this helped it give that look. Once I had all these 3 pieces painted with gold as well, I am going to be moving on to my LED lights, and I am going to be adding batteries to this because I need this to light up. So it's really easy. I added the batteries and now it lights up. Now it's time to put all these pieces together, and I'm going to start with the bottom of this clutch. And the hole that this comes with, it's perfect. They are going to fit. However, once I made them all the way through, I figured that the battery box was gonna be too thick, so I took this tool that I had. It's a heating tool. It's like a wood carving tool. I will leave a link in the description box if you're interested, but I basically used that to remove that little bump that this had, and now my battery box is gonna fit perfectly. Now I am going to take my LED lights and I'm gonna start running them through that little hole. Once I get them all inside and I figure exactly where I want this box to go, I am going to take some hot glue and glue it into into place because I don't want this to be moving around. And once I do that, I turn it on just to make sure, or I'm sorry, turn it over and just tested it, and it worked perfectly. Now I started by wrapping this on my hand, and I didn't like how it looked, so I kind of take it back and I unravel it a little bit and try to make it look messy, and then I shove it in there, and I liked it way better. And that is done. Now it's time to test it and see how it looks. My fingers are too chubby, so I took that and I turned it on. Now it's time to start putting all these pieces together. I take my bead and glue it on top of my little bell. And then I realized it was missing that little ring that this had on top. So I just took this plastic bottle ring that I already had. You know, you probably have those around from like a juice or something. I just make sure that it was going to be big enough. And then I took that and I glue it to the bell, and then I just took some paint and I just painted it the exact same way. And how cool is this? Using cheap things to make nice looking things. Now all is left is to glue all these together, and I just try to make sure that I center it, and I just put it down and I glue it, and here is the end result. I love how this little clutch turned out. Let me know what you think. Did I nail it? For dupe number 4, I'm going to use some popsicle sticks. These are recycled popsicle sticks. If you've seen my videos, you know exactly where these sticks are from. If you know, leave it in the comments down below. Now, I'm going to take this box. Well, it's not the box. It's the top of a box that it's in the shape of a square. And I thought it would work perfect for this because it's already shaped into a square, and that's what I'm going for. I took 8 popsicle sticks, cut them to the size I need them to go, and glued them to the corners. Once I had those glued down, I took more popsicle sticks and I started trimming them to the size I need them to go along the sides. And then I'm just going to trim as many as I need for all that to happen. Once they are all cut to the size I need them, I am going to start gluing them onto my box. So I take my first one and glue it down, and then so you can see better, I turn it that way you can see exactly what I'm doing. And here is what this box is looking like. Now I'm going to continue and finish this little box. Once I finish this box, this is what it's looking like. Now it's time to grab my white chalk paint, I'm sorry, and I'm going to paint this whole box in this color. Now that it's completely painted, I'm gonna take 8 more popsicle sticks. And originally I was trying to use something else, but I could not figure out what else I could use, and so I end up deciding that I was just gonna do popsicle sticks, which it still looks good, but I was trying to look for something made out of like leather or something. But anyway, so you could avoid this whole thing and do this from the beginning, because I am going to end up painting all these sticks in white as well, so might as well do it all at once and not like I did. But yeah, this is what the box is looking like. All I'm gonna do now is just finish painting these popsicle sticks. Now to finish up this box, I'm going to use some push pins because the one from Kirkland's does have those metal pieces. I just used these push pins. And for the one in the middle, I kind of cut off a little bit of the metal pointy piece, and it still ends up working out regardless if you cut it or not. I just felt like I just wanted to tell you that. And then I just glued this pot in there because I wanted my floor foam to be a little higher. That's why I did it. And then I just added some moss on top to cover that up. And then I had these picks from the Dollar Tree. I just cut them apart. I'm sure you see me use them on my videos. I just took the same and I just started putting them on my little box, and I think it looks really good. Let me know what you think. Do you think it looks like the one from Kirkland's, or similar at least? And now here is the end result. I think this box looks amazing. Let me know what you think. For dupe number 5, here are some of the items I'm going to use. This Dollar Tree sign, these wooden pieces, some this Merry Christmas sign that I had on hand, these paints, brushes, popsicle sticks. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Dollar Tree sign and these wooden pieces. These are from the, I think these are from Hobby Lobby, but you can find them at any craft store. Even Walmart has them, and I will leave them the link below if you're interested. Now, I'm going to take this Merry Christmas sign. This is from this lead during Christmas that the Dollar Tree Tree sell. I'm gonna use that because I feel like the challenge with this sign is the edges because they're curved. So I thought these would work really, really good. So I used that to mark my the ends of this sign. And then I took this craft tool and I started cutting the foam board. Now I'm gonna be cutting 4 pieces the exact same way. Once I had those ready, I'm going to take this Dollar Tree extra sign I had and I am going to cut 2 more pieces with this. Now, the reason why is because once I paint foam board, or at least this happened to me in the past, where I go to paint foam board and that top layer they have, that comes unglued, I guess. So I don't like that. That's why I wanted to use this other sign. Okay, so I lied and I end up cutting 6 pieces of foam board on this shape. And then at the very top, I am going to be adding that other sign, and that is the that finishes that part. Now I'm gonna take my wooden pieces and I'm gonna start gluing them down, and I marked exactly where I needed to glue them, that way they're even on both sides. And now it's time to glue the ends, and as you can see, these ends are gonna cover that leftover part that is not covered by the wooden pieces, and that fits perfectly in there. Now there was still a little bit of a gap in between the wooden pieces and the foam board, so I took my spackling and filled that in. That way that gap is completely covered up. Once that was done, I took some popsicle sticks and I marked exactly how big I needed them to be, and I'm gonna be trimming them to the size I need them so they can fit perfectly fine in that space. And now that I have some popsicle sticks ready to go, I started gluing them down. And so I take my first popsicle stick, I added glue first, and then I just put my popsicle stick. And then that end, it's a little bit curved as you see. So I am going to be trimming a couple of them a little bit shorter. That way they can cover that up. And I'm just going back in there, testing it, see if it's gonna fit. And then once I'm happy, I will glue it down, and then we will move on to finish up this piece. So here is what I got so far. I'm gonna let you watch and then I'll come back. And now that everything is glued down, I'm going to take my brown chalk paint. I will leave the color in the description box if you're interested, but this paint is from Waverly, by the way. And I am going to paint this whole thing in this color. To be able to get in between the gaps, I switched to this smaller brush because I want this to look finished and I wanted to make sure that every gap was painted. So I switched to that one. Then once I was done, I went back to the blue one and finished this up. To create the letters for this sign, I used this cork sheet sticker that the Dollar Tree sells, and I traced them on there, and then I cut them with scissors, and then I'm gonna use my white Waverly chalk paint to paint them. I didn't include this in the video because I didn't think anybody was gonna be interested, but yeah, that's all I did for that. Now for the letter O, I created a small wreath using some Dollar Tree greenery and this green thing that I don't know what it's called, but it's just something circular, that way you already have the shape. Now I'm gonna glue all those pieces down and I will move on. I do end up trimming a couple of leaves off of this wreath because I feel like they were too much, but this is what it ended up looking like. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to distressing my piece, and I took some Waverly ivory paint. I don't know if that's the color, but check in the description box if you're interested in knowing the color. And I'm just gonna distress it with this. Now that everything is done and dried, now it's time to put all these pieces together. So I started placing them on top of my piece just to make sure and see exactly where everything was gonna go. Once I figure out where each letter needed to go, I took some hot glue and started gluing all my pieces down. Creative Squad, I would love to know what kinds of videos did you enjoy more, or what kinds of videos should I be uploading. That would help me a lot. But anyway, we are towards the end of this video, and here is the end result. I love how this sign turned out. I think I nailed it. Let me know how I did. Also, my favorite was the kitchen sign and this last one. Let me know in the comments down below which one was your favorite of today. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you on my next DIY. Bye!